Welcome to The Explainer. You ever look at your company and wonder why it suddenly cares so much about things that seem to have nothing to do with, its actual products? Well, today, we're digging into the powerful and often invisible forces from the outside world that are completely redefining what it means to work on the inside.
So let's start with a big question. What's the bigger influence, the CEO in the corner office or the culture on the streets outside? You might be surprised. We're going to break down why the world outside your office doors has way more power than you think, creating this constant push and pull that shapes everything a business does.
All right, first things first, to really get what makes a business tick, you have to look at the environment it lives in. Seriously, think of it like a habitat in nature. The conditions of that habitat, the climate, the resources, they determine exactly how the creatures within it have to act to survive and thrive. Businesses are no different.
And that habitat is a name: the external environment. It's so much more than just the economy or your direct competitors. It's this whole ecosystem of forces. You've got cultural trends, political shifts, new technologies, and they're all constantly pressing on a company, influencing every single decision it makes, especially when it comes to its people.
Here are the big 5 forces at play. Now, any one of these could be its own episode, but the real magic happens where they overlap. And today, we're zooming in on 2 that are totally intertwined: demographics, the people themselves, and sociocultural, the values and beliefs they hold. One literally shapes the other, and together, they are causing some of the biggest shifts we've ever seen in the modern workplace.
So it all starts with the people. Demographics. This is the foundational supply of talent for any organization. Forget products or services for a second. This is the raw material from which every single company is built. Who is even available to work, and what skills are they bringing to the table?
And look, these aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They're the real living characteristics of the people who might be your next coworker. And as the makeup of this group changes, and it is changing fast, with more women, way more diverse backgrounds, different age groups all mixed together, so do the expectations they bring with them into the workplace. It's like the entire talent landscape is shifting right under our feet.
Now here's a really crucial distinction to make. A country can have a massive population, but companies aren't hiring from that entire ocean of people. As you see here, they're fishing from a much more specific pond, the available workforce. And you know what? When the kinds of fish in that pond change, you better believe the company's entire fishing strategy has to change too.
So, what happens when a society's demographics and its values start to evolve? Well, it's not just a conversation starter at dinner parties. Those changes, those new ideas about what's right and wrong, they eventually get written down as actual rules. Society's new rules become the company's new playbook.
And check this out. There's basically a direct pipeline from culture to corporate compliance. It works like this. First, a shift happens in public values, let's say around fairness or equality. That doesn't just stay on the outside. It triggers a political response, new laws get passed, and boom, before you know it, that big societal value is now a legal requirement for your HR department.
And this isn't some abstract theory. These laws get very, very specific. They mean that society's values about what's fair and just are written directly into a company's day-to-day operations. A company doesn't get to choose whether to care about these things anymore. Society, through its laws, has already made that choice for them.
And there is no better, more visible example of this entire process playing out right now than the rise of diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI didn't just appear out of thin air. It's the direct result of decades of those demographic and cultural changes finally hitting a tipping point and becoming a mandate.
I mean, think about it. DEI has rocketed from being a nice-to-have talking point to a core business priority. It's the modern corporate world's direct answer to a massive societal demand for workplaces that are fairer and more representative of the world we actually live in.
And if you have any doubt that this is a fundamental, permanent shift, just follow the money. We are not talking about a small trend here. We are talking about a multi-billion-dollar global industry. A number this big tells you everything. It signals a massive long-term investment. It tells us that companies now have to compete not just on their products, but on their values and their culture.
And this isn't just a bottom-up thing either. The commitment is coming from the absolute top. When thousands of CEOs and presidents go on the record and publicly pledge to make a change, you know the pressure from that external environment has become way too powerful to ignore. And they're putting that commitment into action.
And this is where the rubber meets the road, where that big picture policy becomes day-to-day practice. Employee resource groups, or ERGs, are one of the main ways companies are trying to build that inclusive culture from the inside out.
They give employees a space to connect and help make sure the workplace really does welcome and support all kinds of people.
Okay, so here's the bottom line. All these external forces, the changing demographics, the evolving cultural values, they're not just background noise. Not at all. They're active, powerful drivers that are fundamentally rewriting the contract between a company and its employees, and even changing the definition of what it means to be a successful company in the first place.
So any company that tries to ignore these shifts, that tries to operate like it's still 1995 or even 2015, well, they risk becoming completely irrelevant. Not just culturally, but competitively. They'll struggle to attract the best talent, they won't connect with their customers, and ultimately, they're just going to get left behind.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most critical question of all. Right now, it feels like most companies are just reacting, trying to keep up with these massive external forces. But is there a bigger opportunity here? Can businesses move from just playing catch-up to actually getting out in front, to not just adapt to the society they're in, but to help actively build a better one? It's a question every single leader needs to be asking themselves, because the entire future of work really depends on the answer.